Okay, we got part three. Part three of this video series, kind of launching TFG and really launching the website. So the first video, if you missed it, was kind of us catching up on some housekeeping things. The second video was me sort of trying to define what it is the problem is in aviation right now that's leading to the pilot shortage and all that other kind of stuff. And I sort of touched on what my short-term goals are for TFG as I progress through my own flight training career. What I hope to turn it into, a place for student pilots to be able to use as a resource, the same way that anyone who's looking to buy their first 944 can, use this channel as a resource and watch things. And so this video is going to be what, in my mind, I think TFG could really be, and what I'm gonna strive for it to become throughout my entire professional career, no matter what I'm doing. So we kind of touched on there's a petition, all that kind of stuff. Before we get into that, let me backtrack a little bit here. I told you I was going to ASU. I ended up not going to ASU because of I wasn't able to use the scholarships that I had to apply towards the flight training. I couldn't afford it. So my first interaction with an actual chief flight instructor at a flight school, as I was going and shopping around, was basically sat me down and told me, he's like, look, long story short, if you can't afford to do this outright right now, you should probably just entirely pick a completely different career path. And this probably isn't the best thing for you to go do. And this is a lot of advice that, kids, 19, 20, all get when they're going to go do their first intro flight, and it comes time to start talking about finances and, what lending companies specific schools use and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to make it seem like there aren't loans out there. There are loans out there, but the problem is they're like 9 to 15%, and you're talking like an $80,000 loan. Flight training is something that you really need to be doing full time, and any pilot will know this just as much or any CFI will know this just as much as any commercial pilot will know this, that once you become compromised by external factors, then the way that you learn becomes compromised, and the way that you can apply that information can help you out. So when you start becoming stressed out about, how am I going to pay for this, or I've got to go to work today, I'm exhausted, I hate my job, but I'm trying to do this as a means to an end for becoming a pilot, and that's your first 250 hours of training are like that, and you're not sleeping right, you're not eating right, and all that kind of stuff, that affects your training. It affects your aeronautical decision making. It affects everything. And I mentioned it in the previous video, while there's people out there who do that because you just got to do what you got to do, again, I admire the work ethic and the tenacity, but I still think personally you shouldn't have to do that. I think that there's a better way of going about this, and that's what I think TFG sets out to really solve. It sets out to never have to turn away a student or have a sit-down conversation with them their first flight when they're super excited about training, and tell them, look, if you can't pay for this, then you need to pick a different career. And at the same time, on the opposite end of that spectrum, look, unless you're burning yourself out, you should probably sit down and pick a different career. There's better ways to do it, and I think TFG has that answer. And much in the same regard, if you don't want to be a commercial pilot for an airline, you shouldn't have to go try to get into these academies, just basically signing yourself up for $200,000 worth of debt on a guaranteed interview, not a job. So what am I getting at? TFG, I think, could be the bridge. I think it could be the first ever flight training program that is post-secondary at the same time. So if at the end of getting your commercial rating, your CFI and your CFII, if we have to issue you a piece of paper that says that you earn a degree while doing this based on all the ground instruction that you've done, or the ground schooling that you've done, so be it. I think that can be the way to do it. I think you should be able to have an aeronautical science degree in that sort of sense that is the ground school, not separate from it, not part of $15,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 tuition, but the same way that you go to pick the ground school of your choice, whether it's King Schools or whether it's Sporties or any of them. I'm drawing a blank because it's 100 degrees out here. I'm tired, but you get the idea. You know, that can be a part of that integrated into the curriculum. And like I was saying before, none of the infrastructure that is what Part 61 or Part 141 or any of that needs to change. All that needs to change is that, hey, this specific type of school isn't for if you want to be a recreational pilot. This is for if you want to be a professional pilot. So, because at the end of the day, no matter what school you go to, I don't care if it's Embry-Riddle, I don't care if it's the school at the local FSDO or FSBO. It's all government regulated stuff. So they have to teach you based on what the regulations are and what the regulations require. So it's not the same as getting a degree from Harvard or getting a degree from Yale versus getting a degree from a community college, because it's federally regulated. It's all the same. It's meant to be that way to promote safety. So again, I think TFG could be the first entity that does that, and that would allow other flight schools to, in the same way, add 141 to their curriculum. They could add something like a 61 Bravo or this Take Flight Garage Flight Training Initiative, whatever you want to call it, to their curriculum that they can offer. And suddenly that would open up it would do two big things. And these are the two big goals that I think could make a huge change within the industry. The first thing would be that it would allow student pilots to not have to rely on personal loans, not have to rely on maxing out credit cards, and not have to rely on one specific lending company or two specific lending companies that are niche lending companies that provide loans specifically for flight training. No, this would open you up to any sort of FAFSA. It would open you up to federal grants, federal scholarships, all that other kind of stuff. I'm not asking for flight training to be free. I'm not asking for the taxpayer to pay for it. I'm just trying to provide the opportunity for student pilots to take their training into their own hands and not be denied the opportunity to fly just because they can't afford it and just because the financial rules are kind of all over the place. So that's the student pilot aspect. The second thing that I would like this Take Flight Garage Flight Training Initiative to attack is the way that CFIs are paid. Because everyone knows that you can't get paid to fly in any regard unless you're a commercially rated pilot. So CFIs, you don't get your CFI till after you're commercially rated. So, and even then, the CFIs are only getting paid basically by the Hobbs meter. Now, there's some places that do it differently, but I imagine this Take Flight Garage, this flight initiative, this program to be, no, you're going to get paid the same way a professor would get paid at a college. So when you clock in to when you clock out is when you're working, is when you get paid. When you take your lunch, you can clock back out and take your lunch. If you want to be a 2,000, 3,000 hour instructor, then guess what? Maybe we'll give you tenure. You kind of get the point that I'm saying, where it's not based on Hobbs, it's not based on fuel, it's not based on tack time. This can be a stable career from you, and this is why that's important. When you have CFIs who are going to be making a fairly decent amount of money, who are not going to be overworked, overstressed, underpaid, tired, in the same regard where you're going to have students who are working 60 hours a week, trying to fly full time. There's a lot of stuff that can change, and honestly, I think ultimately the big promotional benefit here is going to be safety. You're going to have better students. You're going to have more cognizant, I shouldn't say more cognizant, I should say better taken care of instructors. So the quality of the education, the quality of the instructing is going to be better just by far. In the same way that if I was in an air-conditioned garage right now, then we could break down every single system on this car and I could do it in depth. It's basically equipping people with the tools that they need to do their job, perform their job safely, and effectively. And I think that's the big thing. So here's the thing. So if you're a rich guy and you just want to go get your pilot's license for fun, just so you can fly around the country, that's great. You can go to 61. Part 61 program, here's what you do, and this is all you need. Hey, you want to go add on an instrument rating? You want to go add on a multi-engine? That's great. But if you want to do something that's commercially rated, if you want to become a CFI, CFII, and all that other kind of stuff, then you could go through this program. And this program would allow you to take out federal loans, have access to the same federal loans that you would have at any college, any community college, Pell Grants, any sort of grants, and it would allow you to use that towards the flight time, towards the DPE, towards your written exam, towards your practical exam, for every step of the way, for your stage checks, for your study material, for your books, for your flight computer, all that kind of stuff. And the flight schools, the way that I imagine that this could sort of entice them to implementing this program, even if it might be more expensive for them to, pay the instructors like an actual full-time raise and all that kind of stuff. I imagine you could then give the flight schools a bit of a tax cut from their income to kind of help accommodate that. So, hey, if you sign up for this program, then we can cut your taxes a little bit and let you keep some of that money in your pocket so that you can put that towards paying your instructors, put that towards making sure you have a nice fleet of airplanes, everything is well taken care of, and maybe even giving them deals on insurance, or there's incentives, there's a way to go about all of this. So I imagine that Take Flight Garage ultimately could be this, there's no reason why no one else can do it. And if people start doing it, I want you to know that it's because someone watched this video, took my idea. But that's what I imagine Take Flight Garage could be. I imagine somewhere, where you walk into a hangar and it's a typical day at a flight school. But at that flight school, the flight instructor is getting paid hourly. And the student pilot is going through a commercial program that they were able to take out loans, federal loans and all that kind of stuff, so that they can focus on their flight training, and they're not getting burned out, they're not getting overly stressed out and overly worked. Now, that has nothing to do with work ethic. It has nothing to do with just kids being lazy and nobody wanting to work. I think what it is really we want to work, but we want to do it in a way that we feel like valued, and I don't think that it's necessarily a good thing, in the same way that you probably wouldn't look at a pilot who's probably flown 30 out of the last 40 hours and say, oh man, you're like in a great capacity to fly, you're real tough, you like, you know what I mean? There's that sort of like, it's one of those behavioral signs that we're actually trained to sort of recognize and work against, right? That macho feeling that, oh, it won't happen to me, I'm above the regulations, those don't apply to me, or any of that kind of stuff. In the same regard, where it's like, well, why don't we have that mentality towards our students? Why don't we kind of provide them that? Why don't we take away some of those external stress factors so that people aren't overthinking their check rides, and ultimately can retain the information better, and are just safer pilots all around. And I think you probably notice a big giant decrease in a lot of these GA accidents, and even a lot of the professional mishaps that we've been seeing lately, because people are probably going to be getting more sleep and less worried about losing their ability to fly. And yeah, that's kind of my big goal. So I've already started work on this. I have no experience working with legislation, so if some of you guys out there know a senator or know someone who can write the bill, I would love to get in contact with them and put this together and put boots on the ground and do it for real. I've done my best to sort of try to start writing out the legislation that I think would work to implement this and get it going. I had one contact who he probably is still, he was an aviation lawyer and is now a professor at ASU. He wanted to see that I had met with a congressman or someone in public office, and establish good contact and get feet on the ground looking at that. And I actually met Senator Mark Kelly. I reached out to our local congressmen and representatives, their offices, to try to talk to someone, tell them about my idea and all that kind of stuff, and I haven't heard back from anybody since. So, yeah, I understand that stuff is going to be political, and it's the nature of things. And but I think that, in every sort of regard, when I talk to pilots about this, real pilots, I'm talking veteran, 20-year long career airline pilots. Every time I say something this, they go, "Huh, that's a pretty good idea," and they support it and they would get behind it. And again, it might not be the best thing for you. If you just want to go straight into the airlines, there's no reason why you can't go through the academy and go through that sort of program if that's really what you want to do. And at the same time, I don't think that you should be kind of out of luck if you don't necessarily want to fly for the airlines someday, So I think we should have that opportunity to provide, you could call it, specialty, the same way that you could have a specialty degree in a specific area. You could have a specialty program for firefighting pilots and for, agricultural pilots and for business aviation, charter aviation, all that other kind of stuff. And branches out for mechanics. I think A&Ps, the same thing. I'm sort of seeing now that like places like ITT Tech have or UTI have an aviation mechanic program. So I'm not 100% sure if that's finally changing there, but if it hasn't, I don't see why none of this could apply to mechanics too, to give them a specific place that they could come and use federal loans and get a post-secondary education, have a degree to fall back on, so that they can either instruct or they can do whatever else they have. If a medical issue comes up down the line, so that you're not riding all on just hope and blind faith and, I'll pay back this, a couple $100,000 worth of debt in the future at some point. So there it is. That's my big idea. That's what I've been working on. You can visit takeflightgarage.com. Our mission statement is there and it's available, and it'll kind of break everything down. The one thing I want to touch on very lastly is that on the website I've listed, like I said, for the student pilots, there's a couple resources. AOPA, you can look at your local flight museums, your historical warbird museums. That's a great way to get involved, especially for you younger kids out there, just to be around the industry and get around pilots and veteran pilots and all other kind of stuff while preserving history. That's a great way to sort of get your foot in the door. But the petition that's on there's a change petition, and that petition that I created was basically to help get more politicians' attention, so I could kind of have some real substance, for lack of a better word, to show that, hey, people care about this issue and we could try to do this to make a change. So if you go on there and you decide to sign for that petition, I really appreciate you. What I don't want you to do is donate. I don't want your money going towards that petition for two reasons. A, I don't get a dime of it. It just goes to reposting and resharing. All I want you to do is just go there and sign. I don't want anyone donating any money. And that brings me to the last part of all of this. If at any point I'm able to monetize this channel or do anything like that, I want to be able to provide something that's like very distinctive and you're getting your money's worth, and put that towards future things. So for example, if I once I get my ground instructing going, if you decide to hire me to go do that and I can make money from that, I can reinvest it into the channel, and then we can put together a mini scholarship program where, hey, we can give you ground instruction for free, or I'll volunteer my time and ground instruct that way. If we sell t-shirts or something like that, then we can do stuff on the car and all that other kind of things. Relay how owning a classic car can help you with, working on classic airplanes, and really give you a good understanding of flying in case you have an engine out or stuff like that. That's all kind of stuff that I've had sort of brewing in the back of my mind. And I know I'm rambling kind of crazily, but this is just kind of all stuff that I've had sort of working. The gears have been kind of working for years, and I didn't want to do anything until I knew that people would really appreciate it and potentially support it, So that's kind of the idea. And if you think it's a stupid idea, then you should tell me, because my my whole philosophy is I don't want anyone sugarcoating this and telling me why it's not a bad idea. Tell me why it's a bad idea, because if I can answer you, then that means that my logic is sound, and that means that I've got a bulletproof leg to stand on. So, you know, if tell me why you think it doesn't make sense, tell me why you think it wouldn't work, and if I can answer you, then you know, it's the same regard where it's like when I had people telling me I wasn't going to buy a Porsche for my first car. It was ridiculous, impractical, didn't make any sense. I should get another car to serve as a means to an end. To the same way where people were telling me it's, you know, hey man, you're probably not going to be a commercial pilot. You probably aren't going to go through flight training because it's too expensive. It's impractical. It's, you know, you just can't do it. You can't make it happen. My whole philosophy has been like, well, watch me, you know? So in the same way that rather I'd sit here and you know, I could complain about my entire flight training career, my entire college career, in the same way that I could, you know, complain that things are expensive and all that kind of stuff. And man, I work jobs, busting my butt, working in 120-degree weather, and you know, just trying to make ends meet and try to do as much as I can to save and still not have any money left over afterwards, is the same way where I'm like, you know, I would rather, instead of sit here and complain, show you, hey, no, okay, this sucks, this is a problem, but I think this is a way to solve it. And maybe we can do some good and change the industry in a positive way. So that's my idea. That's kind of everything I've had brewing in my head for the past couple years. And with the channel hitting that 1,000 subscriber mark, it was a sort of milestone for me to go, hey, okay, you know, if I keep doing what I'm doing, and if I keep doing it in an honest and an authentic and a genuine way, then there's a real chance that this little dream that I have in my head could become a reality. And while I might not do it in the most orthodox or typical way, well, I can still do it my way and get it done, you know? So it's harder to swim up against the flow in a creek, but with enough determination and sheer willpower, you can make it happen. And that's kind of what I've learned from owning classic Porsches, and that's why it's always been a goal of mine to sort of bridge these two worlds, and why I think there's a lot in common. Because in the same way that you know, in the same way that you feel a 944 setup when you're downshifting into third gear and you're setting up for a corner, I mean, man, that's the same way that you feel as soon as you take off. There's no feeling like it. And I don't think that you should have to sacrifice what you want just because other people tell you that you can't do it, and just because it's difficult. So that's all I got, man. I hope you found this enlightening and informative and interesting at the very least. Go check out Take Flight Garage. It's there for all of you to go use. This is starting out as an advocate company. It's just an advocacy company. I have no products to sell right now. I have no means to generate products, but in the future, hopefully, if I can offer some video classes or group classes and stuff like that, I think there's a real way for not only a chance for me to earn a living, but hopefully get a new generation of pilots excited and going, and make it feel like they can achieve their goals too. So for all of you pilots out there, like I said, rip this apart if you can. Who knows? Maybe someone out there who's got like several $1 billion wants to invest. Yeah, I think this could be a multi-billion-dollar industry. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. But the best thing that we can do is just try, right? So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.